2, and 1. We are now live.
Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee on the 28th of February 2024. My name is Councillor George Parker and I'll be presiding at the start of this particular meeting. The first order of business today is to appoint a chair to oversee this hearing, and I would call for a nomination from my fellow councillors to my right.
I'm happy to nominate Councillor Parker.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much, and I will accept the chair of this hearing today. If I may hand over to our clerk for today to read out the housekeeping notes.
Thank you. Please note that this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee, if applicable, up until the exclusion of public and press, that we don't have today, apologies, is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. In order to ensure the meeting is managed effectively, please could everyone present please follow the following ground rules for speaking. Only speak when invited to by the chair. State your name before you speak if you have not been introduced by name. If joining remotely, please ensure that you unmute yourself and always turn on the video function before speaking. Please mute your microphone when you are not talking. After each party has made their representation, the chair will ask each person in turn if they have any questions or comments. However, if at any point you would like to speak again, please use the raise your hand function at the top right of the screen or raise your hand if you are in the meeting room. For those in the room, please note that if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point along Brady Road under the flyover. Finally, if joining remotely, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum, and can everyone ensure that mobile phones and other devices, including laptops, are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Clark. Have we got any apologies for today's meeting?
None received.
Thank you, currently. Any declarations of interest from our subcommittee members? I have no declarations of interest. Councillor Harman?
No declarations.
Councillor Filer?
No declarations.
The protocol for public speaking at hearings is a protocol that the public speaking at the meetings of the licensing subcommittee is included within the agenda sheet, and that's what we'll be following. Today, we have the business of the variation of a premises license at the Vibe, the Triangle, Bournemouth, BH2 5RY. The licensing authority has received an application to vary the price of premises license for the premises known as the Vibe, the Triangle at Bournemouth. This matter is brought before the subcommittee for determination. I will now ask each participant to introduce themselves and state their role. My name is Councillor George Farquhar, and my role today is as chair of the sub-licensing committee. To my right is Councillor Harman.
Thank you. I'm Councillor Harman. I'm a member of the Licensing Committee and also this subcommittee today, and a councillor for Parkstone Ward.
Hello, I'm Councillor Anne Filer. I'm a member of the Licensing Committee and Subcommittee. I was also at the hearing that was held last September, one of the committee members then, and I represent Eastcliff and Springbourne in Bournemouth.
Also attending today is Councillor Chapman Law and Councillor Kiddy. They are reserved members for the purposes of this hearing. They are not required to participate as members, but they may be present and observe for training purposes, but they will take no part whatsoever in the hearing or the deliberations. Attending in person today, we have our licensing officer, Miss Ellie King.
Good morning, my name's Ellie King. I am representing BCP Council as the licensing authority.
And to my left, we have our legal advisor to the subcommittee.
Good morning, I'm Linda Cole and I'll be advising the subcommittee today.
The clerk to the subcommittee we've heard from already, but if you could introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Michelle Cutler and I'm clerk to the subcommittee today.
We also have attending today for the Dorset Police in objection, Vanessa Rosales.
Good morning, I'm Vanessa Rosales from Dorset Police Licensing.
And I see another representative from the police today. If you could introduce yourself.
Good morning, Louise Busfield from Police Licensing, supporting Vanessa.
And acting remotely, or attending remotely, I should say, is we have David Crank as an agent.
Yes, David Crank, solicitor representing Ratio Bars Limited and Mr. Mahana.
And the applicant himself.
Yeah, it's William Mohanna, representing the 5.
Thank you very much. Before I run through the procedure for this hearing, may I just check that all persons that have given notice of their intention to speak have been identified. And any person who wishes to withdraw a representation or wishes not to speak has also been identified. I see no objections. I will now explain the proposed procedure for the order of speaking for this hearing as follows. The licensing officer will present the report. There will be questions of the licensing officer by all members, or shall I say all parties. Members of the subcommittee will go first. Then the applicant, Dorset Police, will make their application. Questions of the applicant by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. I will then invite those representing the premises to respond to the application. Questions of the premises and representatives, members of the subcommittee again will go first. All parties will be given the opportunity to sum up, with the party who spoke last, the premises, to go first. The hearing will then conclude. The subcommittee will then deliberate in private with a legal advisor and the clerk present. Notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within a period of 5 working days, beginning on the day of the last day on which the hearing was held. And the notification of the decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. I will now ask all parties to confirm agreement on this proposed procedure or make representations unless anyone else indicates otherwise. I will take this as confirmed. Mr. Crank.
Yeah, yes, thank you. The way I had understood what you said was that the police were the applicant and they would go first. I think, are we not the applicant and should we not go first? Or did I just misunderstand?
It's Mr. Crank, it's an error in the checklist, and you may have seen me raise my eyebrows, but I was on autopilot for reading it out. Obviously, the police are making their representation, and Mr. Mahona and yourself remain the applicants. Secretary, with that said, do you agree to the procedure?
So it would be for me to start, yes.
Indeed.
Right, I agree. Sorry, just wanted to clarify.
Mr. Mahona, do you agree to the proposed procedure?
Yes, I agree.
Ms. Rosales? Ms. Busfield?
Yes, Chair.
Ms. Kay?
Yes, Chair.
Ms. John? Ms. Cole?
Yes, Chair.
Finally, may I remind all parties speaking not to repeat the information which they've already given in writing, but to expand on their written representations. All questions are to be asked through myself as the chair, and there will be no cross-examination of the parties. I will now ask the licensing officer to present the report.
Good morning, Chair. The matter before you for your consideration this morning is an application to vary the premises licence at the Vibe for the Triangle Bournemouth. These premises previously made a full variation application to extend the licence of hours for the provision of live and recorded music, performance of dance and supply of alcohol to permit the premises to open 3 hours earlier at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock in the evening, and to reduce the number of SIA door staff required. This application was granted by the Licensing Subcommittee on the 28th September 2023, subject to an additional condition in respect of SIA door staff. The current variation application was made by Mr. David Crank on behalf of Ratio Bars Limited on the 12th of January 2024 and seeks to increase the licensable hours for the provision of live and recorded music and performance of dance by 2 hours until 5 AM. To increase the licensable hours for the supply of alcohol by 1.5 hours to 4:30 AM and to add the provision of anything of a similar description to live music, recorded music or performances of dance. So that's a new licensable activity from 6 o'clock in the evening until 5 o'clock in the morning. This application also seeks to amend 2 conditions, 2.18 and 3.10. The existing conditions are shown in the licence at Appendix 1 in your packs and are also detailed in the report. Condition 2.18 relates to the the number of customers permitted to use a smoking area. This application seeks to increase the permitted number from 6 to 10 in the smoking area. And condition 3.10 relates to the use of polycarbonate drinking vessels. The proposed amendment will allow champagne to be served in champagne flutes. Dorset Police have made a representation under the Prevention of Crime and Disorder and Public Safety Licensing objectives. Members are asked to consider the evidence before them today and decide whether to grant this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harman, have you got any questions of the licensing officer?
None at this stage, thank you.
Councillor Filer.
No questions at the moment.
I have one query, and it might well be because we've encountered one typo today. In the actual application itself, background point 2, the original start time is listed as 2100 hours to 1800 hours. Can I just confirm that that's a typo in the application itself? Sorry, no, in the papers, point 2 of the report.
Okay. Okay. Where the original, sorry, this is referring to the previous application where the original start time was 9 and then it was pulled back till 6 o'clock in the evening.
I understand. All right, so that makes sense to me. So originally the licensable activities,
Yeah,
in regards to music, were
Yes.
9,
yes,
and then it was brought back to 6.
yes. So that's referring to the full variation application that was made in September.
All right. So with that variation, then the hours for this particular variation is then from 6 p.m. or 1800 hours
Yes,
through till
till
5
5.
in the morning.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Does the applicant have any questions of the licensing officer?
No, no questions.
Our police representatives?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can we now hear from the police representation, please?
Thank you, Chair.
The applicant first.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, sorry, my mistake. The applicant first, if you please.
Thank you. As the committee will know, I appear on behalf of Ratio Bars Limited, who operate the premises currently known as Vibe, although as I'll explain later, there is a proposal now that the premises be renamed. Mr. Mohana is here, who manages and is the DPS at the premises. I will address you at length. If there are questions, it may be that Mr. Mohana is the best person to answer those questions. We'll explore that at that time. The application has been submitted primarily to extend the hours of operation so that licensable activities could run until 4:30 a.m. The premise is closed to the public from 5. There's also a request, as has been indicated, to extend the number of customers outside the premises who may take advantage of the designated smoking area from 6 to 10. And a slight correction, because there's a conflict between 2 conditions about whether glass champagne flutes can be used if champagne is served. I would also suggest that if it would follow that if you were to grant an extension of hours, it would be appropriate to look at the time for last admission in line with any change in the closing time. It's currently 1 hour before the end of licensable activity. The application was advertised, while previous applications have led to comment and requested alterations to premises from environmental health required due to concern about noise. There was no representation there, and we're heartened that the operation of the premises with all the agreed noise attenuation works have been successful in addressing the department's concerns. There is an objection from Dorset Police to the hours requested on the basis initially that the area has issues with street drinkers, antisocial behaviour and crime and disorder, and a later opening hour would add to this by people moving between premises rather than dispersing. This was amplified by the additional document that was sent on Monday. We have had the chance to look at that, and that's slightly changed the way we were looking perhaps the length of the address. But my client has always looked to cooperate with the police and has been happy that that matter goes before you. And in fact, it allowed us to send a letter through that the committee will have had the chance to look at as well. I'd look to address points on a fairly broad brush basis rather than deal with each issue. But if something is missed, then please raise it with me. First, I'd look to set the scene with the background and proposals. I think the first issue to raise is to confirm an amendment to the application, which was in response to the police objection and followed attempts to mediate the matter. Basis my client, while he wishing to extend the hours to help the prospects of the business, but with a view to working with the authorities, asked me to amend the application so the licensable activity would run until 4 a.m. with the premises closed to the public by 4:30 a.m. Though still not acceptable to Dorset Police, we did confirm by email to the council on the 19th of licensing team on the 19th of February that we would hold to those hours that we'd offered in negotiation. Current position is the premises are closed. It operated up to and including Christmas and New Year, and then closed for January, as many licensed premises do. And that's been extended to February. A decision has been taken since the application was submitted to refresh the brand from Vibe to the new name that would be Diva. The committee will know the premises in the area of the town that the Triangle is situated are popular with the LGBT plus community. When it opened, Vibe did not particularly promote in a style that might be considered to be a venue for any particular community. Perhaps could be seen as a premises without a brand. The owners and operators, with the involvement of Mr. Mohana, have spoken with groups in the area, and it's proposed, and this proposal postdates submission of the application, that there will be a rebrand to the name Diva. The premises are going to be redecorated, renamed, although there will be no physical changes to them, and they won't be varied in any physical way. Changing name will be a variation to the address, and we would look to address that after this hearing. But nothing else physically needs to be varied in relation to the license to accommodate the new style of operation. And the premises has, as the committee will see, a fairly full set of conditions already. You have in your papers a letter from Louise Clark evidencing the genuine nature of the discussions and highlighting elements that we consider are positives for the premises. Members of the committee may recall, and the police reference, that this premises was subject of a contested application last year before it opened. At that time, which was before my involvement, the request was to operate till after 5 a.m. in the original application submitted by Ratio Bars for a license. There was an objection from Dorset Police then. The fact that despite the proposed investment, the client was taking on a premises that had issues in the past may have weighed on the decision. The license was only granted with the current terminal hours and significant requirements for SIA staff. There's comment made that my client did not appeal. It did not. It wanted to show that it would do what it said and went ahead and carried out works costing over £100,000. My client company, principally with the efforts of Mr. Mohana, have spent a considerable amount of time using that money to upgrade the premises, changing them, making them a cleaner, more open space, introducing various security elements, including an efficient and effective CCTV system with 22 CCTV cameras. We understand 13 were recommended initially. A security arch to check for metal coming into the premises, a process of searching people and their bags on admission. They also introduced a welfare room supported by a first aider to assist if customers fall ill. The changes, I believe, led to a clamping down on any suggested use of drugs. The client looked to risk assess security numbers so they are compliant with conditions, which I accept were varied last September. and consistent with the numbers that the premises have been attracting, with the capacity to increase those numbers if necessary. Mr. Mahana also, at the suggestion of the police, undertook and obtained a 5-star Licensing Security and Vulnerability Initiative Award. The acronym of that is SAVI, demonstrating a safe and secure environment for the enjoyment of customers. And in making those comments, wonder that the objection on the basis of public safety, whether it is founded as a valid issue with all those steps that have been taken. Mr. Mahana has regularly attended pub watch meetings in the town and noted to me that at the last pub watch meeting, only 2 incidents of crime and disorder, which were not at these premises, were considered noteworthy of mention, one of those being an offence of dishonesty. The police objection is based on a review of data incidents occurring in the nighttime economy in Bournemouth, arguing that another later opening venue in town will likely generate even more demands on police resource. At the time my client's premises have been open, I do not believe there have been any incidents that have placed pressure on police resources. The rebranding to a model that is attractive to LGBT plus community in an area that they look to populate would not be obviously likely to increase the risk of serious crime and disorder. There may be issues in other areas of Bournemouth, but that is not something my client has seen at or by his premises. The area seems to have cleaned up from what they have been told historically. And the heat map that's produced by the police in the police representation suggests that most significant issues are elsewhere in the town. At New Year, my client applied for and obtained an extension to 5 AM. There were no incidents reported. My understanding is that issues that have existed in Bournemouth tend to be in the area closer to nightclubs that have a capacity for thousands of people. My client's premises has a capacity of 215, so a much smaller venue. Also, the extension that is now being requested would add an hour to licensable activity, which would be more likely to hold people at the premises rather than have to let them out and leave them inclined to look for other premises. I would suggest that that is an issue the change would reduce rather than increase the issue. There are a number of premises that have premises licenses in Bournemouth until 4 AM. There are a number that have premises licenses until 5 AM, varying the license to operate to the revised request of 4 AM. That additional hour does not appear to be a significant in terms of demand of police resources. I understand that the vault nearby benefits from a 24-hour license and could be open until 6 AM. There is no cumulative impact policy identified in Bournemouth licensing policy at this time. These are premises that have improved what was there, look to work with the community and adapt. It would look for the support of those in the LGBT plus community and provide an alternative with hours that would reduce the need for people to move to another venue. For those who enjoy late night entertainment, it looks to provide a full evening rather than a partial evening. The premises, although seeking a license to operate to those hours each evening, would principally look to operate the hours on Fridays and Saturdays, some bank holiday Sundays, and possibly, if there's student demand, on Wednesdays, but unlikely to be 7 days a week. The business is not really geared to that. Demand is probably not geared to that either, being realistic. While the decision should be made on the evidence of the negative impact the change would make on licensing objectives, if there is one, there is a financial reason to ask for the change. I would suggest it, and it's a number of comments that have been made in the police representation, that there must almost always be some financial reason behind every application. I cannot see that that is something to criticise, nor is it a reason to refuse. It is one factor to weigh in the decision, along with whether the operator seems to be taking sensible steps and direct evidence as to whether the premises is a source of harm to the objectives. The business has closed during these last 2 months to avoid losing money. In the past, it is closed early if there are limited numbers when the time for last admission passes. It has still spent a lot of money investing in a facility where staff and customers will be safe, and has acted to meet the licensing objectives and looked to work with the authorities. It has tried to work with the hours and conditions. It very quickly realised that the SIA condition was harmful to the viability of the business and asked to vary it, which the subcommittee kindly granted. I'm not sure that that is unreasonable. For the same reason, it seeks longer hours and has looked to rebrand to create a demand, but it's not suggested that standards will drop and the same security that Louise Clark sees as a safe space will be there. The club employs up to a dozen people when open. Bournemouth has recently had concern expressed in the press at the prospect of the Cameo nightclub closing because of the financial problems that its parent company Retcom have. Thankfully, those employed there, and perhaps the wider community, that part of the business was saved from closure. While that is a much bigger venue than my clients, the fact that such a large company has been forced to close a number of late night entertainment venues in other parts of the country is a further indication that the nighttime economy is an area that needs all the support that it can have. My client has addressed the licensing objectives, has worked with the authorities, attends pub watch meetings, adopted SABI accreditation, has added features to provide a secure setting, has continued to satisfy the environmental health team so far as noise is concerned. It is looking to brand in keeping with the nightlife in the area, so potentially reducing the prospect of conflict. The latest police representation suggests that to grant would undermine the decision of the subcommittee in March 2023. But that was a subcommittee which had no information on the operation of the business, uncertain as to whether the business would do what it said, and is a subcommittee which I would suggest might have come to a different decision in what are different circumstances. Again, there is no CIA zone, no recommended closing hour in the policy. The police evidence suggests the premises is outside the edge of the heat map, even though it opened in July when the survey dates from, allowing for the fact that you will weigh what the police say heavily as the guidance, Section 182 guidance suggests. Are they providing enough detail to say that the licensing objectives will be harmed by granting this amended application? The suggestion is that you should wait another 6 months before taking any action, but with no evidence of non-compliance, on what basis is that proportionate? Excuse me. In these circumstances, and knowing that if my client does not run the premises with the control I suggest they have to date, if they do get it wrong, the authorities have the power to review. But if they get it right, perhaps a further relaxation in hours could be agreed. My client's intention is to operate a business that is a positive addition to the Bournemouth nighttime economy. My client would still have liked the extra time originally requested. We've offered to reduce that to this amended application, adding time to the license, but allowing a further assessment as to whether my client can continue to comply. We will find out if the police concern has merit, but for now it seems a concern, not a certainty, and is supported by little hard evidence. We all can monitor the impact. I would ask, in urging the committee to grant the application, can it really be said that such a change in a relatively small premises would have such an impact as to significantly increase crime and disorder in Bournemouth or impact on public safety? Would ask whether a refusal would be proportionate. In finishing, I'd ask you to grant the application with the amended hours with the other elements requested, and give my client a chance to show it can be a positive for the area and the business and not the negative feared. Thank you very much for your consideration. Obviously, if there are questions, we will look to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crank, for that very detailed and comprehensive representation there. Before I open up to the panel for questions, because you went a little bit swiftly for me at this particular point, can I just confirm that you made mention of the fact that it was unlikely to open for the full hours and the full number of days? The premises license at the moment is 7 days a week, from 6 o'clock till 3 o'clock in the morning. Can you did indicate what sort of days of the week that you were anticipating opening, and unfortunately I missed that. You moved somewhat swiftly. So this is where you said it's unlikely that they open full hours, and my question is just reconfirm which particular days and hours that your client is planning to open.
I think, well, and I can be corrected by Mr. Mohana, but I think that the days that late night entertainment venues generally operate, unless there's some special reason why, would be Fridays and Saturday nights, bank holiday Sundays, and if there is student demand, or if there is demand, then Wednesday is often a popular night. It would be possibly to hire out the premises on other evenings. So for that reason, the request is that and has been the case all through the process, that each evening be licensed. But they're likely, not many late night entertainment venues are 7 nights a week late night entertainment venues. So I was just mentioning that in relation to the reality of what will be happening at the premises, or what might be happening at the premises. I don't know whether I've made that any clearer or made it more complicated.
You have. I think the questioning from the panel, then we may get some clarity on that. Could I just confirm what you mean by bank holiday Sundays? Do you actually physically mean the Sunday that falls before a Monday bank holiday?
Yes, sorry.
Understood. Thank you. Any questions from the panel?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Crank. You answered a lot of my questions actually in your representations. That's very thorough. I'd like to hear from Mr. Mahana. Dorset Police have expressed their concerns about the wellbeing and safety of customers and also the wider community. And I just wanted to know what assurances you could offer us as a subcommittee that you take their concerns seriously, and what measures you'll be putting in place or already are in place to tackle this. I know some things have been covered by Mr. Crank, but I'd like to hear from you, please.
Hi. Yes, of course. Every customer's coming to the venue. He's been searched, body search, personal search, wallets. That's why sometimes, like once on one occasion, we got one has drugs inside his wallet. So that's the search done before entering the premises. And I have very strict policy of search. No one coming in without search. So was called the police came and took the guy, and they found, a large, packs of drugs with him. Inside, I have a very good CCTV system, which covering all the area with no blind spot. There's no blind spot in the whole venue, wherever you go inside, even covering outside areas. I have a welfare room, which is I treat if any customer inside or a lady feeling in danger or anything. I have a welfare room who will be attended with 2 members of staff or first aid always on the premises. We give them water, we stay with them to make them safe or to give them first aid. So I'm well prepared. I did well prepare the venue to host and to make it safer for the community. Outside, we don't have like much. I never seen for the last time I've been there for the last 6 months operating. Never seen any issues on the street in front of me. All the time the area is dead. Basically, from 10 o'clock we open till I close. You can count how many people walk in the area. It's like, I don't want to say it, but it is fact. It's like a ghost town. You can see no one walking. You can count them by finger all the time, even Friday, Saturday, nothing. So there is no one drunk can come in to the premises. So if anyone come in drunk, we used to turn them away, even though we used to have no customers. Some other clubs or bars or whatever, they will be attempted because they want to make money. But I put also that on the first, safety is the most important thing for me, for my staff, for my customer. Anyone drunk doesn't come in. So I've turned people drunk, or I seen someone is violent or something, I turn them away before they get in. So from the door, search done, assess the customers, then turn them away if they are not fit or if they don't look right. I don't know what about other safety issues but I'm always there. I can see other areas where they have any problems, but for mine there, since I've been there, I don't have any problems. I'm there. I'm always there. I walk in between securities. I walk into the bathrooms. I walk into in the venue, inside the venue, outside. I keep in, out. So I'm always hands-on. And even when I assess anything or I see any situation, gonna go straight away step in and then do the correct thing that should be done to prevent anything happening. So I really don't see anything can cause any problem or safety. I've done the course, which is license savvy. Police suggested that I should do it. I did do it, and they would not give me the 5 stars. If they didn't come and check the whole venue and see that fit with their, you get the stars by safety, by policies, and they do come, police, before they give you the stars, they check, do you have that? Do you have this, as you said? And then I've ticked all the boxes. So that's why they give me the 5 stars. The safety of my customers and the safety of my staff and myself is my priority. Since day one, I'm always put everything for the safety more than anything else, more than even financial. On the first thing where the plan was suggested, 13 camera is enough, 13 CCTV. I installed 22. Why would I cost myself more money? Like, you know, lots of money to install it, costing. It's just because I need to have a safe venue for my customers, for myself. I do the search to prevent any knife, any metal thing coming in. Also for myself, for my staff, for my customer. Everyone goes there, they feel the safety inside, welcoming. There's no fear. You go there with no fear because there's nothing you're going to be feared of. So safety is my priority. Public safety is my priority. My staff will be well trained on all aspects of the business. Security, they are trained, but I always give them more. You search every single one. Even sometimes if you think he's a drug dealer or whatever, you tell him to take his shoes off. You search his socks. You know, I was very strict till the point I did not have customers. So I don't know what else I can be doing more, but I was doing everything I could to have everything is safe and run the venue smoothly, which is I did for 6 months. No problems, no crime, no fight, no issues. And that's proof. 6 months is more with a high period. New Year Eve, everyone has problem. Every bar, every club, there is problems. In mine, there's not a single problem. I did not have any. In a New Year Eve, a busy time. I don't know if I answered all the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mahana. You did. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Fowler.
I don't have any questions at the moment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahuna. Yeah, am I pronouncing that correctly? Because I hear Mr. Crank pronounces it slightly differently.
Mohana.
Mohana, I do apologise.
It's okay.
Mohana. So, Mr. Mohana, I've got a couple of questions, and I really appreciate you answering Councillor Harman's questions, and it gives us an insight as a sub-licensing committee into, you know, how you take your duties and responsibilities as a DPS. I have a couple of questions as regards, and first of all, I'd like to praise you for the welfare room. I think that's a fantastic addition to any venue that participates in the nighttime economy. And you mentioned some of the reasons why the welfare room is there, such as people that may be incapacitated or concerned for welfare, female or otherwise, for your safety of your customers. Just on the question of the welfare room, you said that you have 2 members of staff that attend the welfare room and they're first aid trained. Do they have other roles, those 2 members of staff?
The staff, they just what I said, if there is any incident or anyone who wants to, like we have to take them to the welfare room, they will be attended with 2 persons for the safety reason. If there is a lady, it's just for the safety of I try to cover the situation where someone, like, not to make accusation or anything if there is 2 males. So by having 1 male and 1 female there, or 2 persons, it's just I thought is more safety. even though there is a CCTV in the welfare room. And the first aider always on the premises. There will be always a first aider on the premises. The other staff, there will be maybe a bar staff or just a staff inside, or an assistant manager. But it's not their rule just to stay on the welfare room where, like, all the time it's been open. The welfare room is closed. Only it's been open if we have to take people into it. So welfare room is always closed unless someone need to go into the welfare room for the safety or for intoxicated.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohana. I really appreciate that clarification. You also talked about the safety of your customers, and that there's not been any problems in your time. How many incidents have you had whereby the welfare room has had to be used, and how do you record those incidents? E.g., do you record them in an incident book, or is there some other mechanism that welfare had to be given in some way, shape or form to one of your customers, and that welfare room had to be opened and attended by 2 people from your staff, one of which was the first aider, and the room is covered by CCTV?
Yes. Since I opened for the last, all the time that I've been opened, I did not have any single incident where I had to take people to the welfare room. I had no drunk people. I had no girls feeling in danger to come and tell me to take them there. So I had no incident. I had no one drunk, nothing. So I did not take no one. So that the welfare room stayed closed. So I think maybe because of the strict procedure I do, that I had no people, no drunk one in. If I had to, there is, of course, the incident book will be recorded on the incident book, and I have the security book, has incident, has everything that, even drugs, if there's drugs will be sealed, put in a clear bag and put in the safe. I have a safe for the drugs. But from that, there's nothing really. I did not have any, only that drug incident, and police was called, and they took the guy from the door, which he wasn't in, he was just on the search area, and nothing. I did not have any incident.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohana. So coming back to the drug incident where it was taken at the door and the police came along, did you enter that into your incident book? And if your incident book was examined by the licensing authority or the police, how many incidents would be in there?
I did, yes. Vanessa, she came and I showed her. It was in the book, because I was one trying to tell her that I'm gonna put a variation, and she was saying, like, I have a discussion with her, a mediation. She came and visited me in the venue, and I did show her in the security book, in the SIA book. We have recorded it, and then we have recorded that time where the police came and took the guy. She asked me, have I recorded it? And I said yes. Said, can I see it? So I did show her the book. I really did not have many incidents. I did not have, only 2 or 3, maybe maximum 4 since I opened. Did not have any, no fights, nothing. I don't. It's maybe because the way I operate, that I'm very strict on myself, even on operation inside. So I'm always, spotting things before it happen. So assessing things before it happen. So maybe that's why I don't have incident, and people are safe inside. They're not kids, like, coming, and the old people, the ages they come. They are well in a way that they don't cause problems. They don't make trouble. They just come, enjoy their night, stay there a few hours, and they leave. So I did not have many incident, but whatever incident I have, it is recorded in the SIA book. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohana. You mentioned it was mentioned by Mr. Crank that you were operating up until Christmas, but effectively you've remained closed since then to today's date. So what was the regular, how frequent were you opening, let's say in the month of December before the Christmas period? Were you opening at the weekend, or were you open 5 days a week, 7 days a week? And what hours were you closing? Because I think there's been mention of that in the papers.
Yeah. I open Friday, Saturday only. Since I had the license, I only operate Friday and Saturday. I don't open any other days. Only once I tried to open one day for Thursday, but that's only once, was like a Brazilian now trying to see if it worked. But that's it. I only open Friday, Saturday. I did not open any other day. And the New Year, of course, New Year Eve, New Year was Sunday or Saturday. With the New Year that I opened, yeah, I think it was Saturday.
If it helps you, Mr. Mohana, yeah, Mr. Crank already confirmed that you got an extension for that particular opening. So that's absolutely fine. I'm not concerned about that. You mentioned the number of CCTV cameras that you have. Are they only recording, or do you have somebody that actually monitors those CCTVs while you're in the hours of your operation, while the club is open to customers?
No, there's no one sitting on a desk and just keep watching the CCTV cameras. The place, the layout of the venue is a small venue, like I'm there. So, and I have always, I go and I have, because I have the 3 securities, so I have always the security standing on the back door, always looking up. So that area is covered, all the up area where the bathrooms is, you know, is covered, and then inside is covered. So there is, the venue is 1 floor, is a small. It's not like with so many rooms that you need really one to operate the CCTV camera and to stay monitor. I'm there, security there, staff there. So it's very small. How can I say? It's like, you know, 3, it's very small. You can see from one end to other end easily. It's few meters.
Understood, Mr. Mohana. So you said that you opened on Fridays and Saturdays, and that was your method of opening, apart from one, I think you said Brazilian night on a Thursday night, and obviously the New Year. You mentioned free security. How are they positioned, and where they spend most of their time? You mentioned something about a back door. Do you mean the front door? Where are these free security staffs on Friday and Saturday, please?
Yes. Firstly, I got the 2 stations, on one inside for the search, and then one outside on the outside door. I have, like, when you come to the premises, there is a first door, a security door. Then you go into an area where I make the search, the metal, through the metal detector and these. So there is another door. So there is one in these, between these 2 doors, there is one SIA to do the search. And then there is one SIA outside the door, the main door, before coming into the premises. He is the one, his job to assess if someone drunk, doesn't let them in. If anything he can feel, then he can ask the search inside to be really very strict on search, because maybe he has something on them. The back door, where I mean is the back door leading to the bathrooms, there is one SIA there. He will be standing, so he will be covering the whole floor. Now, if I have customers waiting, when all this is done, so the other security will be one security outside with me going in and out, and then the other security into the search area, he will be joining behind the door. So behind the door for inside the venue. So that will be having eyes on all the bar area and this, and the other guy in the back having seen all the area here, and also checking the bathrooms for any issues, you know. I don't know if I make it clear.
No, you made it very clear, Mr. Mahana, and the reason I ask these questions because it gives me an insight to the way that you actually operate the premises on a Friday and a Saturday and how you use your staff to ensure public safety. So talking about public safety, there are 4 licensing objectives. Can you name them for me, please?
Yeah, is protecting children from harm. Sorry. It's now because I need it. It's just the public safety, protecting children from harm, preventing noise and public nuisance, preventing crime and disorder. Sorry, it's just I delayed in answering because I wasn't thinking. Just
no, absolutely. I understand absolutely, Mr. Mohana. You've demonstrated that you are making your best efforts to uphold those licensing objectives. Children, protecting children from harm, I don't think we've got any concerns about that. But when we speak about the preventing public nuisance, talk to me about the area that you have outside where smokers, if they wish to smoke, gather.
We have a small in front of the main door. I made like let's say a barriers where I in front of the main venue. I have a barrier which I lock them in so people can stay on that area only. And like the security outside, he's always watching. I always say if anyone shouting or making noise or any reason, just always tell them to keep noise down. Sorry, I did not maybe understand the whole question. Is it just about the people smoking? This is how we are in front of the premises. People stay there in a locked area. I have a barrier, like I lock that area, and then people go there, smoke, and keep noise down. I'm always there checking, no noise. I don't know if I understand the whole question.
Is that a role that you take on yourself to monitor the smokers outside, or does the SIA, which you have positioned outside, also monitor them?
Yes, I take that and I always brief the SIA staff. This is how we operate. 6 before, which was the license, I have 6 people maximum outside. So I always tell them 6 people outside. When the other security went inside, someone want to go outside, where you going? If he said go and smoking, then there is radio between them. They radio it how many on the smoking area. You tell him 6, then you used to tell the guy inside, sorry, you can't go outside for smoking because it's full. You need to wait. When someone in, you can go. And the security outside, he always keep the noise down if anyone making noise, because I did not have any. He just keep telling them, can you keep the noise down, please? It's just we have a strict policy here. That's it.
Understood. That very much answers my question for that particular licensing objective, that you use radio communications between your SIAs for controlling the number of people that are in that smoking area. Before I ask a couple more questions of Mr. Crank, do any of my subcommittee members have any questions which have occurred to them? Excellent. Can I just finish up with 2 more questions for Mr. Crank, please? You mentioned a possibility for the hire of the function, the premises to be hired out as for functions. How do you perceive that as working, Mr. Crank?
I'm not sure it ever would be hired out for functions, but and you were asking me about what days it would be used, and I think the only reason that premises will have a 7-day-a-week license is because you can't be certain that there won't be a day when you need to use the license. Hiring out for functions was my uninstructed way of explaining that sort of eventuality might arise. I have in the past acted for clients who have, if a business wants to take have a works evening out, they would use a night when a premises wasn't open to the public generally, and would hire the premises to do that. So they'd use the premises for that night for their business. It's not, as Mr. Muhano said, it's not something that he has done, but it was me giving an example. As I say, it was an uninstructed example of how how another night might be used by the premises if there were a demand for it. So,
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Mr. Mahana shakes his head a couple of times, and his head was in his hands then. So it was me trying to explain to you why there might be an occasion where another evening would be used, but it's not something that this premises has done as yet.
Yes, no, I very much appreciate that live professional experience that you have, and we are very much looking at perhaps a more unique offering that's being offered to the nighttime economy and to the residents of the town. So I'll skip my other question on that one. There's just one last question, which troubles me, is that we've already established that even for the premises license has 7 days of operating a week, and currently it's 6 till 3. On the Friday, are we consistent with the hours on the Fridays and Saturdays that Mr. Mohana has, and perhaps Mr. Mohana can answer this one, in what hours we actually open? Is it a consistent opening time, and does that give a surety to customers or potential customers that if they took a wander up from the centre of Bournemouth to the Triangle, that your premises would be actually open? So can you just confirm, Mr. Mohana, have you kept consistent hours opening on Fridays and Saturdays, and what those hours were, please?
It's Friday and Saturday. You mean before or moving
That's
forward?
right, prior to the Christmas period. In practice,
Yes.
what hours did you actually keep?
I used to open normally from 10 till 3. Sometimes that's always 10 till 3. Sometimes where I had no customers by 1 o'clock, because I have to shut at 2. 2 is last entry. I can't let people in after 2. So I see that I have like 10 people inside and there is no people outside, no people coming. So I used to shut by like, just over 1 o'clock, something 1 o'clock, just to keep the cost down. Some nights, which is mostly will be Friday that night, if there is no customers. But if there is customers, I used to carry on till 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock shut.
Okay, so just for me to repeat back then, you said that you open from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m., even though the licensing hours as published to the public are from 6 p.m. and last entry is at 2 p.m. and then, 2 a.m., my error, 2 a.m. But when it was a quieter night, 10 customers or so, you would close at 1 a.m. So in what way do you let your potential customers know that you're closing early? Do they just literally come to the door and the SIAs don't let them in, or have you sent your staff home and the building is locked up? Because the premises has a license till 3 a.m. and potential customers will expect that premises to be open. And you mentioned that this was to save costs. I'm not quite sure what costs you're referring to. Do you not pay your SIA staff for a full evening? I don't understand what the costs are.
The cost involved, there is the SIA, if they go to a shift, they have minimum of 4 hours to pay. So if I shut early 1 hour or 2 hour or 3 hour, whatever, they still have to be paid 4 hours. That's the rules for the SIA. When I have no customers, I have no reason to stay open beyond when I see there is no people on the street and I have no people in, there is no reason to stay open, because the area is, how I say it, the vibe, the club was a straight club. It's just for everyone. Everyone can go in. The area wasn't for that kind of venue. And I suss it out for the period that 6 months I was running. It's not working. People not coming there. I've tried so many things, you know, like it's not attracting, you know, customers to come to the area, whatever I do. So that's where I am now, extending the hours and then changing, rebranding the venue for the LGBT community.
So just to confirm then, it's very much rather than a premises for all, or as you refer to it as a straight club, it's focused more for our LGBTQ community. Is that the sort of plan with the Mr. Crank mentioned a rebranding and a renaming?
Yes. Yes, I am rebranding and renaming as a LGBT community nightclub, which they have only one in Bournemouth, and this will be the second one. I've met with few people who is well active on the LGBT community. And they said this is gonna work because this is their area, and for me it was a mistake to do it on the like not to do it from the start, which is when I did it I just thought it's a nightclub, you know. From the applications and these, you know, that I had no experience like before in running nightclubs, so I didn't till I get into this business, and this is where I am now, you know. 6 months did not work, and trying to rebrand it to see how it's going to be. So this is basically is my last chance for it to work.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahuna. Mr. Crank, there was just one question came to mind there. And now I've lost it again in my scribbles. Bear with me. Yes, I think it's probably time to hear from our licensing officer. If you've got any questions of the representation.
No questions, thank you.
And if I may open it up to our police staff.
No, thanks, Chair.
Oh. Okay, I stand a little surprised, but there you have it. So absolutely, yeah. So I'll call upon now for the police representation, please.
Thank you, Chair. This objection for full variation for the premises license to Vibe is being brought before the subcommittee due to concerns that the licensing objectives, specifically the prevention of crime and disorder and the public safety, will be undermined. It is and always has been the intention of Dorset Police Drug and Alcohol Harm Reduction Team to engage and support licensees to meet the licensing objectives. Mr. Mohana did allude to the fact that he did consult with me prior to the application being submitted, and he was advised that Dorset Police would not support terminal hours beyond 0300 hours. It has been the opinion and advice of Dorset Police that to allow for a later terminal hour would not offer the assurance that the licensing objectives would be promoted. I will not repeat the information that you have in front of you, but would like to invite the members to ask any questions that you guys may have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fowler, do you have any questions on the police representation?
Not at the moment.
Councillor Harman?
Yes, thank you. I just want to understand a bit more about you have these concerns, sort of on what basis, what evidence, if you can explain a bit more about what goes on at the moment, and then the instance you have to deal with, and your concern about this potential extension to the terminal hour, how that will impact. That would be great. Thank you.
In the last month, January, December, I had to attend about 5 incidents in that area, and it always is with around beyond 3 o'clock. So it is a concern for us, even though that time the numbers doesn't reflect with what we've got to deal with, but it does actually it does cost with our officers that has to deal with those incidents, such as assault. I don't want to say it, but there are sexual offences in that we had to deal with. A lot of the times, not necessarily it is reflected onto licensed premises itself, but it's when they leave the premises, which is a concern to us, is after they leave the nightclubs. So any later beyond 300 hours, that's when they leave the premises. That is when it's a concern for us, because we had to deal with those incidents.
Thank you. And you said there were 5 instances. In what time frame was that you were referring to?
Around about 400 hours from on top of my head, from the work that I dealt with, 400 hours, and beyond 400 hours and 600 hours. That's
Sorry, thank you. I meant more sort of 5 instances since when, sort of, we talking since the beginning of this year?
Okay. Apologies. So the data that I have actually collated is from the date that from July to July till present times. Not 5 incidents. I can assure you it's not just 5 incidents. That is just on top of my head in the last month or so. But we do deal with a lot of things. Our officers had to deal with those.
Thank you. And you also mentioned it was within the area of this particular premises.
Yeah.
Sort of how, when you say the area, can you define that a little bit more for us?
In the Westcliff, Pool Hill area. Sorry. So it's just by the triangle beside that crossing there.
Cool. And I do have another question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
In your dealings so far with Mr. Mahuna, have you found him to be compliant and open to suggestion and sort of, positive in those engagements? How have you found that?
Yes, I have found Mr. Mahana to be respectful, and he does tend to, whatever is suggested, he takes into consideration. So yes.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Councillor Feiler.
Yes, thank you. We've heard from the applicant that it's a very small premises, and at the moment he's only open 2, possibly 3 nights a week. So we're here to consider his application today. Do you think that the change of customer that he's proposing, in your experience, will the change of vibe, that's an unintended pun, will the change of customer base increase or decrease in your experience of other premises around that area? And with such a small premises, which he says 200 or so people at maximum, do you think that there's going to be all 200 of them pouring out of the premises at 6 o'clock in the morning? Or is it going to be a more gradual blip if this were to be allowed?
I'll let my colleague comment on that one.
In terms of changing the demographic, I think that we're not able to comment on whether transforming the premises into an LGBTQ plus friendly premises or unique premises is going to change the incidents that happen in the nighttime economy. That's not for us to comment on, and we certainly wouldn't have the statistics to back up any such assurances. or the fact that a different demographic is going to very much change the nighttime economy. One of the major concerns is that, and I appreciate it is a relatively small premises, but by extending the opening hours until 6 o'clock in the morning means that you've still got customers in that area who previously dispersed the area at 0300. And this is why the heat map has been included to show the volume of incidents that happen in the early hours of the morning from 0300 to 0600, because that's when we would be looking at a concern about increased demand from this premises. And the moment they leave at 0300 hours or before, as Mr. Mahana says, by staying open later, it does attract people, customers who've maybe had an evening in other premises, who would again otherwise have dispersed back to their home addresses, who are encouraged by late night premises to maybe stay and have that extra drink, that extra 2 drinks, which very often, as we've witnessed, does then change the behaviours of these individual customers. And this was discussed with length by Mr. Mahana and my colleague Vanessa and Sergeant Gosling about changing the nature of the premises by bringing the hours back, hence the 1800 opening hours, which has worked very well with other premises to try and encourage an earlier evening customer base, making it more attractive for earlier drinkers, if you like, earlier customers, and still not therefore impacting on that late night demand. So yeah, I think that's quite significant that we can evidence that the earlier opening hours basically gives the same extended hours. It just brings your trade back a little bit earlier in the evening when there isn't this the same level of issues that we experience between 0300 and 0600.
I think I ought to clarify that it was unexpected, but I believe the applicant is not talking about 6 anymore. It was brought back, was it not, Mr. Crank, to a much earlier hour?
Yes, I think I'd indicated in the application that the 4 o'clock would be the last time for licensable activity, and 4:30 the premises would be closed to the public. So I'm not quite sure. I think I did mention that there was somewhere called the Vault that stays open till 6 o'clock, but it wouldn't be these premises under this application. That was why I had my hand up. Thank you for raising it.
Certainly, any further questions? No. That certainly raises for my mind, one of the largest factors for the subcommittee to consider here is that the hours have been extended back to 6 o'clock in the evening, so 1800 hours, which allows for the demographic to have the extension of the hours. In reality, the practice, as we found, is of opening at 10 in the evening and then finishing at up to 3 o'clock, but sometimes finishing at 1 o'clock. My question is, and it refers to Mr. Crank, and he just referred to it again there about the Vault that could open till 6 o'clock. Mr. Crank also referred to a number of premises opening until 4. Do we actually have a list of premises and what time they close? Because it seems to me that the crux of this heat map between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock is as customers move from one location to another. So do we actually have a list of venues of whatever size that have hours that finish at 3, 4, 5 or 6?
Yes, Chair. Yes, I can confirm that there are 1 or 2 licensed premises that stay open past 3 o'clock, but those are old licenses. But they don't necessarily open until terminal hour. So in the summer they do open. We can't change those old licenses, but I can confirm there are 2 premises in the area that opens later due to the old licenses.
Just to elaborate on that, any new licenses that we have worked on in the last 5 years or 6 years in that area, they have a terminal hour of
They don't go.
1:30, 2300 and 0300.
So, 0200, 0300 and 0130.
And sorry, just to clarify, that's Friday, Saturday nights. It's much, much earlier the rest of the week. Would the subcommittee like to see a copy of those timings? Would that be helpful?
Sorry, is there a way that that can be shared with the applicant?
Unless you've got it on, unless you've got it on a PDF.
So Mr. Crank, we're simply having a look for my satisfaction at the hours of premises in that particular area, which serve the nighttime economy as it's referred to.
Mhm.
Can you just confirm if any of these premises are nightclubs? Which ones are nightclubs?
I think the only premises that's not nightclub is Flirt, but they do use later, so those are nightclubs.
Okay. What I'm going to suggest is if you can, we can scan that form to you by email, and then you can see what the committee are reading. That might be helpful, I think. You happy for that?
We'll see. Happy to see if it were. I don't know whether Mr. Mahana's got. Well, I suppose. Yeah, I've got a laptop in front of me, so I should be able to open it and look at it.
Would you like me to do that, or we can read them out to you? It's just really so that you know what the police are referring to.
Should we try read them out first? I don't know how many there are. I know there's several.
Indeed. So for this list, which the police have provided me, you've got DYMK, which is identified as a nightclub, and
Yeah.
on the Fridays and the Saturdays, then their hours they close at 3 o'clock. They are licensed for other activities, but we are pretty much focusing on Fridays and Saturdays because that seems to be how most nightclubs in the area operate. There is the Flirt Bar, which is not operating as a nightclub, and its hours on Friday and Saturday are 2300. There is the Canvas, which acts as a nightclub, and this is one of the old licenses that was referred to, so not issued in the last 5 years, where the police are advising either 23 or licenses have been issued for either 2300 hours, 130, 0130 or 0300. The Canvas on a Friday and a Saturday, their hours are midnight, 0000 hours. But however, they do have a 24-hour license on Fridays and Saturdays. The Vault, also operating as a nightclub, and their hours on a Friday and a Saturday again are midnight. But they also have a 24-hour license because it is an old license. And the other one of concern that opens beyond opens within the hours of 0300 and beyond in the morning is the Vibe, which we established is operating as a nightclub.
Yeah.
And that's what we have. So just to recap on that, DYMK, the Canvas and the Vault and the premises we're discussing today, the Vibe, are operating as nightclubs. And of those, that's right. That's what I'm saying. The Vibe also operates those 0300. So the 4 nightclubs of one, which is the applicants, one we're discussing just now. So there are 3 other nightclubs, 2 working on a 24-hour license, and the DYMK, which closes at 3. If I may just hear from the police representative again, please.
If it's helpful, but even those old licenses, looking at the websites, Canvas Board Bournemouth operates until 2 AM on Friday and Saturday nights.
And the Vibe, sorry, the
Vault.
The Vault.
I believe the vault opens a lot later from I dealt with them a few times, so they do open much later, especially during summer.
Okay, well, that satisfies me there, Mr. Crank, on you referring to the Vault. And
Thank you.
Can we, our licensing officer, if you please.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the fact there is another licence which is attached to the Pride Bar, which is at 8 The Triangle, which also was issued in January 2023. And that does also have licensable hours which end at 0300 hours.
Sorry, Chair, but that is on the list as well. Sorry, Chair, it's the last one. It's changed names. It was transferred.
So Pride was formerly DYMK.
I believe it was the 99p smoking right at the bottom.
Smoking Aces.
No, the first page right at the bottom. I believe I included it.
If we pass that back, then I think that will clarify things for us. Thank you very much. So the Pride Bar closes at 3 o'clock, licensable hours on a Friday and Saturday. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I just wanted to get that out there, that there is that one as well. So. Yeah. The Vault is 4 AM.
Second.
Oh, right at the top, sorry.
Right,
Just for clarification, Mr. Crank, I've missed the Pride Bar, which is a single line, and its opening hours are from 10 AM till 3 AM. It's licensable hours, so its supply of alcohol finishes at 3. So that's another one. May I just ask, because it's listed as a bar, does it operate as a nightclub? Do we know?
Yes, I do. No, it doesn't. It doesn't open as a nightclub. It's basically it's being used as when it's quiet times, and then they move to other closer venues.
Okay, so just for everybody's understanding, for my question, all these premises bar 1 are listed as closing at 3 o'clock, and the bar 1 is the Vault, which according to their the Google closes at 400 hours. So the explanation from the heat map is that the difficulties that you have between 3 and 4 are because people are finishing up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then searching for somewhere else. Would that be a fair assessment?
That's right, Chair.
Just for clarification on the heat map. So we've got the heat map that says that the levels of violent crime and disorder experienced in the Bournemouth Triangle area between the hours of 0300 to 0600 from the 29th of July to current. Do we actually have a list of how many incidents that are actually involved? And if you could explain how the heat map actually works, is it a seriousness or a number that actually the darkness of the colours?
This is a list of violent crime and disorder. So these are recordable incidents, and the heat map actually is much more impactful if it's in colour. And I can see that we're all looking at a black and white copy, but you've got colour copies. In terms of the actual statistics, we haven't got those from our crime analysts, because we find that the heat map does just give the impact that and the overview of where the violent crime and disorder does occur between these hours.
Thank you very much. We do have a colour one, but just to confirm, we don't know for this heat map how many incidents it actually refers to. But the deeper the colour, does that actually mean the more incidents, or does it actually mean the seriousness of the incidents?
Yes, Chair, the deeper the colour.
Thank you. And I think because we are exploring nightclubs that finish at 3 o'clock in the morning, so we've established that the Pride Bar is not a nightclub, but DYMK is a nightclub, Canvas is a nightclub, and the Vault is a nightclub. Are those 3 locations actually within that heat map?
Yes, Chair.
Any further questions from the panel? I would invite questions of the police representation from the applicant.
Thank you, Chair. As we've been talking about late opening bars, I think that I would ask if Barso and Cameo, which I understand also operate after 3 o'clock, are they central to your heat map, the heat map that's in the police representation?
No, this is just within the West Clifford Triangle area.
Right, but the heat map doesn't actually extend to my client's premises.
It's just on that border. It's quite close by. I'm sure you're aware where DYMK and the Pride Bar is. So it is within that heat map.
But the heat map covers the whole period that my client's premises were operating.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any further questions from that?
Can I ask, and I don't know whether this is well, can I? Is there now a police policy that premises shouldn't open after 3 o'clock, or be allowed to have licenses after 3 o'clock?
Certainly, feel free to answer.
Well, in the absence of a statement of licensing policy, including cumulative impact area, we as licensing officers, we risk assess every single application, every single variation. As the subcommittee know, we'll bring any that we haven't been able to mediate appropriate hours and conditions to, we bring them to their attention so that we can be confident that we are supporting a vibrant, safe nighttime economy. And as I believe we have evidenced that the new licenses or the variations which we've been working on since our team initiated in 2017, all those new licenses are, the terminal hour is 0300 hours, which best fits the statistics, impacts less on police demand and crime and disorder and antisocial behaviour in these areas. So no, there isn't a policy per se, and we assess every application on its own merit, of course.
So, Mr. Crank, through me, the way I read that is that the mediation in practice is working well with all new applications to allow for the situation. We've moved beyond the cumulative effect now in the nighttime economy in Bournemouth. And what's presented here includes the bars, but is the nightclubs, which is a similar offering to Mr. Mahuna's offering that we're focusing on. Do you have any further questions for the police?
No.
So just before we finish up with the questioning, I've got one further question for the police representation. We've established that the size of this premises is 215, is the capacity. We've established that its operating hours in reality are between 10 and possibly 3 in the morning. It's got a fairly small clientele compared to perhaps some of these other nightclubs that we have here. Do we think that, and I know that the representation, with the way that the nighttime economy is operating, and in practice we're seeing how it's where we have crime disorder as per the heat map. What sort of effect do you think a possible clientele, a maximum clientele of 215 might well have on that heat map if the hours were extended? Big ask, I know, because there isn't empirical evidence.
I can't comment on that, Chair, until it is in place. I wouldn't know. It would be just guesswork. That's the moment.
Let me rephrase the question then. Having sat through the representations today, it was brought to our attention that Mr. Crank and the applicant had brought the hours from 5 p.m. back towards 4. Would the police be prepared to accept that as an extension, or does your representation stand as it stays at 300 hours?
Oh, our representation will stand, Chair, unfortunately, at this time. The last entry time.
Absolutely. May I have a question from the legal representation, please?
Mr. Crank, could you just clarify, confirm for us? At the moment, we've got a last entry time 1 hour before at 2 a.m. for the 3 a.m. closing. So is the proposal in your application that would remain? Last entry would be 1 hour before closing? I think you're on silent, Mr. Crank.
Usually when I'm at my best. I think that I think we would have to accept that if the committee were minded to extend the hours.
Thank you. Just for clarification.
Are there any further questions of the police representation? I'm not seeing any further questions. So I think now we come to the point whereby we're ready for a summing up. And if the police have got anything further to add to what you've already presented.
No, Chair. Are we doing summaries?
Yes,
Apologies. As a nightclub operator, I have worked with the applicant for a number of years, since 2021. And he has always been compliant, and it always takes things into consideration when working with me previously. So I do appreciate that. But as a nightclub operator, the applicant has not traded consistently during the busy periods, which give him a full sense of idea of what the nighttime economy is like during the peak season. Therefore, I do not have the confidence that as an inexperienced nightclub operator who has only been operating more or less than 5 months would be able to handle difficult challenges in the nighttime economy. I ask for the subcommittee to take everything into consideration, what Dorset Police presented today, and to understand our concern if the Vibe were to be granted to open until 0500 hours. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And now it's summing up time for the applicant.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, obviously I've addressed you at great length already, and I will be brief now. But we did identify positives in my client's approach, the investment that's taken place, the security features, the lack of issues. The decision is whether or not the variation will harm the licensing objectives. You've heard the police, you've read the police evidence, and you've heard what Ms. Rosales has said. I'd suggest that the police evidence at the moment has the indication that the licensing objectives will be harmed, as they might be harmed. Don't believe that there is strong evidence before you that they will be harmed. The heat map shows that in that 6-month period that they are covering, there have been no issues at my client's premises. The question just raised, or the point just raised about experience, and you've heard from Mr. Mahana, you've heard the determination he has to ensure that the premises operates properly. He has taken the premises from a period with summer through to the Christmas and New Year period without incident. So I'd suggest that whilst one could always wait a little bit longer to see if somebody makes a mistake, he spent a lengthy period not making mistakes, and the premises has not made mistakes. It is difficult running hospitality businesses in the nighttime economy at the moment. What we're requesting is now a modest extension of the operating hours in what is a relatively small venue that has not had issues. If it's granted, if you're kind enough to grant the application as amended, my client is aware that he would need to continue with the cooperation, with the strict regimes that he follows, but would ask, given what you've heard, given that there is no policy, that this is an application that you can grant with a relaxation of the last admission as discussed with the legal advisor. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crank. So just before I close the hearing, I understand there's been a lot of mediation, and Mr. Mahana is being very diligent in his observation of the licensing objectives, and is now switching to perhaps a different demographic and a different operating model, or offering, should I say, to the nighttime economy. What I haven't got to at the bottom of these summings up, and it might well be helpful and to understand, is that from the representations, particularly from the police, is that we don't have the confidence that Mr. Mohana has been operating as a nightclub designated premises supervisor in his area for the entire season. Would and I'm thinking ahead again, would the police be able to come back at the end of the particular season and offer their representation again should the application for a variation be offered up again in, let's say, 6 months?
Can I just clarify that your question that you're asking, would we still object in 6 months' time?
So what I'm asking is, would you have gathered the empirical evidence to come back in 6 months if the hours weren't adjusted? Because the crux of the summing up that you had, from my perspective, is that you didn't have the confidence that Mr. Mohana had the necessary amount of time for the entire season of operating as a nightclub.
That is part of that. That is partially the concern. Whereas Mr. Mohana has been, very cooperative in respect of any measures that my colleague has suggested. However, even when negotiating the lease back in 2021, 22, he was advised that Dorset Police would be unable to support extended hours beyond the ones that he currently enjoys. So without the benefit of foresight or crystal ball, it's a question that we can't comment on, but Dorset Police has made it very evident to Mr. Mohana, as I say, even before he signed the lease to the premises, I believe, that this was the latest hour that Dorset Police would be able to support. And as the heat map does evidence that it's in order to uphold the licensing objectives of the prevention of crime and disorder and public safety.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I really appreciate it. It now falls to me to conclude the hearing. At the end of this meeting, the subcommittee will adjourn in private with the legal advice and a clerk to deliberate it. I will now hand over to the legal officer to explain the right for appeal. And after that, I will close the meeting.
There will be a right of appeal to whatever decision is made today, and that appeal should be made to the Dorset Magistrates Court, and the details of such will be included in the decision notice. That decision notice will come to you within 5 working days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It falls to me to thank all parties that came and contributed fully to the hearing today, and all of those will be considered in deliberation. So I'll now conclude the meeting. All parties may leave, and a decision will be conveyed to you in writing, as been explained earlier.